Silver's supply shortage. Hi everyone and welcome to Ainslie Insights, brought to you by ainslie.com.au, the home of Ainslie Bullion, Ainslie Crypto, Ainslie Wealth and the Gold and Silver Standard. Be sure to have a look. Today, welcome back, Bailey. How are you going today, Bailey?
Yeah, I'm very good.
The silver price is something that has been absolutely front and center on everyone's mind at the moment. We've had those huge gains. We've had a bit of a pullback. We've had the supply shortage is just something that people keep talking to us about in store. Like it's something that people are really interested in. They want to know, and they keep telling me things like, have you seen how much is actually used in these industrial things? There's so much going on there. Let's start off today talking about, let's address the first of all, that price decline, because there's been a drop since the mid-October high. It was really, you've been framing it, you've been talking to me about this, framing it as a bit of a short-term correction, a bit of profit taking, but the potential is just so significant when it comes to silver. How have you been speaking to people about what's going on at the moment with that decline in particular?
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of two ways to look at it. There's the technical, and then there's the macro, the broader context. And I think the first one is more when you think of things short term. I mean, you've got a lot of people trading there. You've got a lot of non-physical essentially being traded. And I think that's what we've seen with these moves. It's certainly the context of why we get into this situation and why this happens and what causes this hype in these moves. Starts with the context, but the short-term crazy volatile moves in pretty much every asset, but particularly silver, comes off the back of ETFs and money flow where, actual real physical silver is not moving around. I think that's rather remedial. I think a lot of people understand that. And I think that's what's played out in the short term here is we've had a lot of real world factors, factors that have been very ever present with silver for its entire life cycle, but particularly in the last 4 years have really, really become to the forefront. That's what kickstarted the move. And then, of course, a lot of people have made a lot of money and a lot of very wealthy people out there take their profit. And then that's where we see sort of the hype die down, everything simmers down a little bit. We get these corrections. But we've spoken about it with gold a lot. I think with silver, it's far more the case where I think long term, when you look at the supply, I don't want to use the word issues, but it will become an issue. That is what is going to, I think, maintain the price in an upwards trajectory. Probably, I would say you're gonna continue to get these big moves and these big spikes as we keep trending along the way the world is looking.
And it's been interesting because I've had some of these conversations with Alex as well, and she has firsthand conversations with many people around supply because she's dealing with that, as part of the refining process and everything. And she said it is real. These deficits are very much something that impacts the businesses of refiners, and that they struggle to find supply, and the premiums do blow out. It's all complicated sort of stuff that people coming in to buy their 1 ounce of silver don't necessarily understand behind the scenes. They get to go, well, why are the premiums what they are? There's a lot going on there. I mean, you've talked about some of these supply deficits approaching 800 million ounces. Like these are staggering numbers. And it's really important, I think, for people to understand as well that silver often isn't a primary, like they're not mining silver. There's a lot of specifically silver mines out there. It's a byproduct of mining gold, copper, other things. So
approximately 70% of all silver mined is a byproduct.
These are significant, and this is what the conversation has been with a lot of people going, well, hang on, this isn't just a temporary blip. This is an ongoing structural issue. How do you think about that?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who are in the silver space know this, but I think a lot of people who are coming into it fresh, it's there at a high level, but I don't think they realize just how deep it goes. So with silver, it's a dual role. Some people treat it like gold because it's the affordable gold, in quotes, the affordable gold.
Well, the people's gold it's been for a long time.
The people's gold, yeah, and silver because it's because it's cheaper. You get a lot more of your collectible coins, and you sort of your gift silver. So I think a lot of people coming into it from the retail level see it as a monetary asset, which it is. But what it also is it's also a highly conductive industrial metal. So I think it has a dual role that maybe gold doesn't even have. Gold's not used in that many things, which is, again, quite a remedial thing to understand. But I think when you start to build this picture that the vast majority of silver that's mined is mined as a byproduct of other things, and it's used in so many things that are, solar, green energy, health, all of these things that we're trending towards using more of in the future, that I think are very clear trends that we're moving towards. You're starting to understand that your 101 economics of supply and demand are starting to come to the forefront here. So what we're seeing with these crazy volatile moves in silver, which we've always had but are starting to see more of, is that dual role playing out. As industries grow, they need more silver. You can't get silver as the economy starts to move away from the fiat system. More people want assets. Okay, gold's too expensive. Retail wants silver. It just starts to create this compounding effect that dual role is really starting to come to the forefront here. And I think that where you get that volatility is because it's used in so many industries. When the share market has a pullback, that sort of plays into that too. So we definitely get a bit more of those wild moves in silver. But I think that if you can handle that added volatility, it's something to keep an eye on, because long term, there's only one way out of it. Then that way is up.
Well, and I think what is often lost in that conversation, because sometimes people will suggest from the industrial side that you've mentioned that, well, what about alternatives? And maybe, when the price gets too high, alternatives will be found. My argument back to that is that they're right. Alternatives will be found if the price is high enough, but that price being high enough is much higher per ounce than what it currently is. And just some examples that you've spoken to me about, you talk about electric vehicles, you talk about AI. These are real world use cases of lots and lots of silver. I forget the exact numbers, but each electric vehicle consumed a tangible amount, and it's not redeemable as such. It's not recoverable. You certainly can recover it, but the cost to recover it would mean you would need silver to probably be hundreds of dollars per ounce before you're going to bother, because it's the tiny amounts used in various parts. That's just not how people think about it. What's your response when you're talking to people about some of those other demand aspects of it? And do you think, do you agree that really there aren't a lot of alternatives for much higher, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, look, and I'll preface and say I am not a chemist and I'm not an engineer, but silver's conductivity, at this point, what we know for sure is that it makes it irreplaceable currently. High performance electronics, smartphones, computers, 5G infrastructure. As we move towards more AI based, we're going to need, it's going to be implemented in various technologies there. So, as I said, I'm not a chemist. I can't speak to the use case and is there a better element that we could harness out there in the world. But what we know right now, it is the best option currently for a lot of industries that are still growing and emerging. So we can hypothesize all we want about there being some better option if it gets too expensive. But I think to your point, it has to get very expensive. So we're here from an investor standpoint, from protecting our wealth and increasing our wealth. So that's an exciting prospect. If the worst argument for against silver from the industrial side is that it's going to get too expensive, well, there's a lot of investors who are rubbing their hands together at that prospect. So, and probably banking on that prospect. I think that's if it exists as well.
And if we get a little bit technical on the prices themselves, I've long thought $100 an ounce silver and that was sort of the US price, made perfect sense to me, because when you looked at sort of around the $50 level where it got previously on that big spike, the Hunt Brothers spike, and then what we've seen recently, it feels to me that the longer term trajectory is up 100 plus. It was that was my conservative estimate. Like all good economists, I didn't put the missing part of that, which is the time frame. I like to cover my bases at some point. But really, when you see some of these trends accelerating, that some point may be sooner than we think. Like we're probably not talking decades away like we were from much lower. Now it's becoming almost urgent to the point that you would expect, even with these pullbacks, the recovery to be quite violent as well, potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah, I don't know exactly what. No, I'm not going to put a number on it, of course, but I definitely think as we've got that supply deficit um, spanning years, 800 million ounces, I think that when you combine its dual role, supply and demand, they are going to need it. Like I said, they're going to need it. But if from an investment point of view, they're gobbling it all up. It's just basic maths. It is going to go up. I mean, we saw it in Aussie dollars well over 80. So and that was very rapid as well.
Right.
So I think that these projections from we were speaking 100 in US, but these projections 150 Aussie. I mean, that's only double where it got to in this run. So I know the idea of silver doubling sounds crazy, but look at what it just did. This is the world we live in. We live in a volatile world now where even our secure assets are having moves like this, which I think is a very exciting prospect because typically they tend to go up. So I think that's the exciting thing. Which is why if you want to be in the race, you want to be in the one that is probably going to go up the most. So volatility, the most volatile asset is going to be the one that goes up probably the most. So I think that's the one you want to back.
And Drew would make the point. I mean, he's very bullish on silver in the longer term, and the GSR, the gold silver ratio, saying that from the levels that it's at now, halving, which would double the price if everything stayed the same, halving the GSR would double the price of silver relative to gold. Would be still above his longer term projections of how low that ratio is likely to get. So, I mean, talking in terms of that time frame, he's suggesting we've had sort of decades above the average, and it's an average for a reason. We'll spend decades below that average as well. So, silver is certainly a longer term play there, which probably leads me to my last question. How do you approach this, or how do you speak to people about approaching this? We've often in the past talked about dollar cost averaging, buying the dip, all of those terms that are easy to throw around. When you're someone coming into this space, particularly after seeing a move like the move that we've seen, how do you approach it? Because we get this question all the time.
Yeah, and I think that's the appeal of silver. I mean, everything we speak about a lot, particularly, and I think a lot of people speak about out there is these sort of broad, large corporations that are buying it by the tons and tons, whereas the average person is probably scraping their savings to buy a kilo or a few kilos, or super funds are buying maybe 100 kilos. We're not at the tons level. So I think that's where I think silver is quite attractive to a lot of those people, and what I tend to suggest for a lot of particularly newbies, just generally speaking, getting into the industry, is when you're looking at the physical product to take it down that sort of niche road for those who are watching. The gold price at the moment, to get a smaller amount of gold, the smaller you go, the more craftsmanship, the higher the premium you're going to pay. So when we talk about these silver prices, that doesn't actually take into consideration the price that you will pay for the item that you get. So I think silver has become more attractive to a lot of investors, and I've seen that trend even with this price movement. It's still far more affordable to gold. So when you think of it purely through the investment lens, you're still getting exposed to the market. You're still protecting your portfolio. It's not gold. It's not the big grandfather of stable assets, but it's accessible to a lot of retail investors. Retail investors don't have the money that China and Russia and the United States government have. So the average person may only be able to buy a few silver coins. So I think from that regard, from that point of view, it's the perfect dollar cost averaging device. It's the perfect savings device. Not if you've only got $50 that week, if you've got $100 now, if you've only got $100 that week, you can come and buy an ounce of silver. So I think from that point of view, for the average person, I definitely recommend that if they don't want to go crazy and overexpose themselves, if they're still doing their research, silver is the perfect gateway drug to getting into it. And you're also, everything we've spoken about, there is the potential to outperform even sort of gold or other assets as well too. So it's not even like you're losing out by getting the smaller dollar cost average. So from that angle, that's what I talk to a lot of people about too.
Look, I think people find that really valuable, that sort of insight. And I know we have a lot of fans of silver, obviously, like whether it's Drew talking about those longer term aspects of it, or what you've talked about today with supply and demand, it makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. So really appreciate your deep dive on that today. Thanks so much for
The people will love it. The people will love it.
People will love it. Yeah, it's all about the people. Thanks, Bailey.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll chat again soon.